Welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be covering something that I've honestly been thinking about for a long time now. My friend Piper suggested that I bring it up on the channel because it's a topic that would really be a lot of fun to explore. Throughout Wings of Fire, we've gotten some really good looks at the various tribes that inhabit both continents. However, there's still a lot to learn about each of them, and to provide more depth to the individual tribes, I think there should be sub-tribes. In today's video, I'll be diving into the awesome discussion of SeaWing sub-tribes. After all, there's a whole ocean for these sea dragons to live in, and they're not all just in the locations we see throughout the pages of the books. Are there SeaWings in the Twilight Zone, or ones that dwell at the top of the shore? How would their way of life be? There's a lot of very interesting concepts to discuss here, so I can't wait to get into everything with you all here today. But before we begin, a huge shout out to my patrons! Dragon1195, Slightest Wild, Fizz, Thistle, Noobto, Pyronuke, Avril, and Pancake. Thank you all so much for supporting me. Links to their social medias are in the description down below. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. While we haven't gotten sub-tribes confirmed, I think the best place for Tui to start implementing something like this would be with the SeaWings. Like I mentioned, there's so much beneath the waves. That's a lot of space and tons of unique environments for these dragons to live. So today, I'll be talking about a few fan-created SeaWing sub-tribes of mine. Starting off, I could totally see there being groups of SeaWings that stay toward the surface. They would reside in the sunlight zone of the ocean, or the top layer of the water. This is where most sea life we think of is found. These SunlightWings would have a very close relationship with the animals of the ocean. They would spend quite a bit of their time soaking up the sun on the sandy shores, and then dipping into the warm waters they explore. These dragons would be calm, peaceful SeaWings with a deep love of the natural world. They'd take it easy and have no trouble finding resources. SunlightWings would probably have usually lighter colors. They'd be pale blues, greens, and purples, and blend into their colorful environment very well. They typically don't involve themselves in royal affairs, but try to maintain positive relations with other SeaWings. SunlightWings would have a deep appreciation for shell and pearl jewelry, and have an emphasis on family and friend relationships. Deep below the SunlightWings is where the TwilightWings would reside. They make their homes in the twilight zone of the ocean and fit the general mood one would associate with this region. TwilightWings are quiet, reserved, and respectful. Some are more risk-takers than others, but in general they have quite cautious lifestyles. Their priorities often lie in vanity, however, and they care a lot about status. Their society is very organized and considered regal by the SeaWings who catch a glimpse of how they operate. They acknowledge the queen, but have leaders of their own in their circles that deal with important local matters. TwilightWings value tradition and appearance above all else. They especially love anything to do with beauty. They're often grouped with MidnightWings, or the SeaWings in the below level of the ocean, the Midnight Zone. MidnightWings and TwilightWings are very similar, except for the fact that MidnightWings prefer to have a more closed-off society. They care more about safety than the average TwilightWing, as living that deep in the ocean is a very dangerous game. They're also quite intelligent and have a love for underwater scrolls. TwilightWings have fairly neon, bioluminescent scales, whereas MidnightWings have darker tones in their bodies. Some even have hints of brown. TwilightWings take refuge in very ornate, complex homes they build out of rock and coral. These are typically underwater dome-like structures with makeshift windows. MidnightWings, on the other hand, have houses that resemble adobes. They invite each other over to tell stories. One of the most interesting subtribes of them all are the AbyssWings. AbyssWings live in the absolute deepest levels of the ocean. They take residence in various underwater trenches and their surrounding waters. These SeaWings are the most mysterious. Very little is known about them, as they reject royal rule and keep to themselves in small, developed groups. AbyssWings come in very dark colors, ones that can almost never be spotted in the limited light of the areas in which they live. From what is known about them, they're quite skittish, territorial, independent, and strong, all due to the way these dragons had to adapt to the dangerous way of life down there. They make their homes in rocks and abyss cliffs, where they typically dwell in very small and secure environments. AbyssWings are excellent hunters and very resourceful, seeing as they have to go a long while without many necessities. They're said to be like kings over the aquatic life that lurk in their waters, though they pay respect to the animals. AbyssWings have their own religion separate from the other SeaWings. It's believed that they worship a balance and respect towards fellow ocean life, and enjoy the peace that comes with the darkness. While sometimes hostile to outside influence, they are protective towards those in their small groups. Because these dragons never leave the Abyss Zone, they stick to speaking in their own dialect of aquatic, and never use dragon. AbyssWings have very dark scales, like I mentioned, typically coming in black, gray, or purple. There aren't just specific subtribes for the zones of the ocean. There are a lot of other places beneath the waters that you can find SeaWings. ReefWings, for example, reside in and around the various coral reefs found in the sea. These dragons are very expressive and have a deep love and respect for the arts. ReefWings enjoy sunlight and love to protect the creatures they share a home with. They're very peaceful dragons and support the royal courts of the ocean. They're singers on land and storytellers and artists under the sea. ReefWings have a mix of pale and colorful scales that are usually shades of pink, purple, green, and blue. They're a warm and friendly subtribe that welcomes outsiders, both sea dwellers and land lovers alike. And lastly, there are KelpWings. These are some of my favorite dragons. They make their homes in the kelp forests of the ocean, where they take full advantage of their environment. Kelp towers are part of everyday life. They serve as store stalls, hiding places, and homes. KelpWings are very warm and kind SeaWings and really connect with each other on a deeper level. They're usually listeners with a love of business and academics. What do you guys think? Should we get more SeaWing perspectives by featuring similar subtribes? And would you be interested in more videos like these, but with the other dragon types? Let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.